Good morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Hurricane Erin update for 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on August 20th, 2025. It is Wednesday, and to start off, it is August 20th after all, so we are now in the last third of the month of August, and we are now on the first day of the peak, or the ramp up to the peak of the hurricane season. So we are roughly somewhere right here on the graph of climatology for the hurricane season, and things are about to ramp up dramatically from here on out. But we already have lots of activity now for the first day of the peak of the hurricane season, August 20th. And what is that activity we're talking about? Hurricane Erin, obviously. A massive, massive hurricane here on the first day of the peak of the hurricane season. Already have a massive hurricane that we are tracking. And this is just becoming larger and larger and larger as the hours go by. And Erin in itself is already much more organized this morning, as you could see. Its eye is now starting to become visible again after several days of wind shear and dry air knocking it down. But beyond that, it has an eye again, and it has an ever expanding wind field. Cloud cover already beginning to extend to just off the coast of North Carolina, and we're even seeing some cloud cover making its way to Bermuda, and all the way down to the Bahamas. So quite an expansive field of cloud cover, and the wind field is also becoming much more expansive as well. And this is all going to head northward and eventually off to the northeast, but not without bringing impacts, obviously, to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where tropical storm warnings, storm surge warnings are in effect. We're going to have heavy rain, storm surge, very high waves, which will be generated from Erin, that'll last throughout the entire northeastern Atlantic for pretty much the next week, and I'll show you that towards the very end. But we're going to have lots of impacts, and we also have very high rip current risks in effect for the entire East Coast, and that'll probably remain in effect for the rest of the week as well. But really quickly, here's the latest on Hurricane Erin as of the 8 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Maximum sustained winds are at 100 miles per hour, so this is holding on to Category 2 intensity, not necessarily strengthening in terms of winds just yet. But the minimum central pressure is now down to 948 millibars, so it's dropped quite a bit overnight and this morning. If you remember last night, the pressure was around 959, 958 millibars, so we are beginning to see a deepening occur in the pressure. We'll have to see if that begins to translate to the wind. And obviously this is moving northwest at 13 miles per hour. And here's the cone with Erin, and I will, hammer this point once again that this is going to stay away from the coastline in terms of its track, moving out to sea. That's a for sure thing. That's not changing anymore. I mean, there's almost no time for this to shift so far west to the point that this will at all have a chance to make landfall along the Outer Banks of North Carolina or anywhere along the East Coast. So the center of this is going to go out to sea, but as once again I've been talking about for the last few days, the biggest story will be its ever expanding wind field of tropical storm force winds, which will be felt very strongly along the Outer Banks of North Carolina, all the way to potentially Bermuda. And I just showed you the satellite imagery where the cloud cover of this storm is now becoming so large that we are seeing its cloud cover extend from pretty much just off the East Coast to near Bermuda as well. And believe it or not, once again, this is only going to get even larger over the next several days. And I just want to show you how large it has already become for the last several days. This is the wind swath history of Erin, stretching all the way back from when it was just a tiny little tropical storm just west of the Cabo Verde Islands. And boy, have we come a long way since, especially with its wind field. Started off here, this is probably only a wind field that expanded at most maybe 10, 20 miles per hour here when the storm was just west of the Cabo Verde Islands. And now, fast forward a week later, we have a wind field of tropical storm force winds stretching at least 100 to 200 miles in diameter. Let me actually check if I could see how large the wind field is, because I believe it's here somewhere. Uh, oh, here it is. Erin is a large hurricane. For hurricane force winds extend outward up to 90 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 265 miles um, from the center. So this is only talking about the wind field that extends outward from the center to the edge of the storm. So that means the wind field across from end to end is probably upwards of close to 500 miles in length. So this is just one incredible storm, and believe it or not, already a very large storm now, but it's only going to get even larger, especially as this continues to progress northward and eventually makes a very close pass to the North Carolina coast. And just to show you how large the storm already is, this is the latest recon, which is doing a center pass right now. They're actually in the center of Erin right now, and they found the minimum central pressure of 948 millibars. But the strongest flight level winds that recon found is all the way out here. So the center is right here, and the strongest flight level winds they found is all the way out, probably at least 100 miles away from the center. Usually, you would think in a compact, intensifying hurricane, the highest flight level winds would be right around where the eye wall is, which is obviously right in the immediate area of where the eye of the storm is. But with Erin, the strongest winds are at least 100 miles outward from the center, and recon is finding flight level winds that are extending upwards of 96, 95 to 100 knots. And that obviously translates to a Category 2 storm. But it just goes to show how large this wind field is. And even with that, we have hurricane force winds probably extending out another 100 to 200 miles from the center. So a very, very large storm indeed. And we all know this is going to bring significant impacts to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, despite the fact that, as I showed you, that this will obviously stay out offshore and not make landfall. And the best way to sum up all the impacts, this is a tweet from the National Weather Service office out of Newport and Morehead City, North Carolina. This is an update that they actually released as of 6 a.m. this morning, but not much has changed since then. There's storm surge warnings in effect. They have 4 graphics, and I'll take you through all of them. First off, storm surge warning. Storm surge expected to be up to 2 to 4 feet above normally dry ground. This is going to be prolonged as well. This is going to start roughly around this afternoon and this evening, and it's probably going to last till around Friday. So not only are we talking about impacts that will be pretty decent, but they'll also last for quite a bit of while as well. And they also mentioned potential for NC-12 and secondary roads along Outer Banks, in particular Hatteras and Ocracoke Islands, to be impassable or inaccessible through late week because there will be significant waves that might cause flooding. And then obviously they go over the storm surge height because there are storm surge warnings in effect. The storm surge height is, again, for pretty much the entire Outer Banks of North Carolina, expected to be upwards of 2 to 4 feet. And they also bring up that storm surge might also be locally higher for places further south along the North Carolina coastline. Expected to be prolonged duration event up to 3 feet locally for ground areas around North Topsail Beach, and 1 to 3 feet for the Crystal Coast. So this includes areas that are not within the 2 to 4 feet range of storm surge. And then, obviously, since we're talking about storm surge and we're going to be talking about very high waves, there are coastal flood warnings in effect. Obviously, because we're talking about storm surge, which causes flooding. And this is all going to cause issues. And this is all happening with the storm that is not making landfall. This is all solely because of Erin's wind field being so large that we're going to have impacts being felt along the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But they have not begun yet. This is the radar imagery from cyclonic weather. You can already see that we're starting to see some outer bands from Hurricane Erin begin to come into frame here on the radar imagery from the United States. And this is probably going to make its way northward. And by this afternoon and evening, once again, we're going to have tropical storm force winds already beginning to be felt here along the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But the story beyond that, and this is something I want to show you to close it out, beyond the impacts we're going to be feeling along the Outer Banks and potentially Bermuda over the next few days, the amount of waves that Erin is going to churn up throughout the entire northern Atlantic for the next week is going to be absolutely massive. And this is Ben Knoll's tweet that he brought up this morning. Erin's massive high-energy wave field will extend for more than 3,500 miles across the Atlantic, all the way from the East Coast, potentially up to northwestern Europe. Maybe even Ireland might even get in on some of these very high waves, and maybe because of Erin, it'll definitely be a remnant low by then, but will probably cause some flooding for portions of Ireland and the UK as we head into next week. And then he says, after passing the East Coast, Bermuda, and Atlantic Canada this week, the storm will bring big winds and waves to Western Europe early next week. So, not just the United States will get in on the impacts from Erin. And this is just going to show, and this just goes to show just how much energy this storm has. And it's going to be quite a remarkable thing that we're going to be watching for the next week or so. Even as this moves away and stops bringing impacts to the United States, which it will do so because obviously, again, this is a huge storm. This is going to churn up a lot of the waters in the northern Atlantic. And also with ACE too, this has also generated a lot of ACE so far, I think, as of last night, and it certainly went up today, but as of yesterday, I think the total ACE count from Erin alone was already 23, close to 24 ACE points. And that's just the amount of ACE the storm has generated itself. And it certainly helped jack up the ACE total for the season so far. And I bet, and again, this is only the beginning of what is probably going to be a long peak ahead of us. And this is something we'll definitely be talking about a lot over the next coming weeks, as we are now August 20th, the first day of the peak of the hurricane season. And it's only going to get active, if you can believe it, from here on out. And we're going to talk about that a lot more later today when I post this afternoon's discussion. Obviously, we have Erin, and we also have other things we're watching in the Atlantic too, like 99L, and also another area of interest as well in the MDR that might develop in the Western Atlantic next week. And I'll touch upon that in a video later today, and I might even do a live stream as well this afternoon or sometime around midday to go over the latest on Erin and also what's happening in the tropics. So please make sure to stay tuned for all of that. And the best way you can do it is by subscribing to my channel, like this video. Also follow me on Twitter too, because I post a lot of information there. And make sure to be weather ready, because we're going to be talking about a lot of weather that'll be impactful coming up over the next several days. That's going to do it for this morning's update, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Until then, I will talk to you later.